Welcome to Cooperville.
Do you know what's fun to do in Cooperville? Pack up your shit and get the fuck out!
Listen. www.welcometocooperville.com. Who the fuck says www anymore? I can't even say it. www. Stop that. The Welcome to Cooperville podcast. On demand anywhere quality podcasts are available. And some places where cheap podcasts are available.
And the local gas station has some.
Subscribe, get updates, feel better about your life. Welcome to Cooperville.com.
Check. Welcome to Cooperville. Make sure you use a coaster. The wife gets upset when we leave rings on the tables.
Cool. Well, Mike from Red Sun Rising and we go back several years. We've crossed paths through my radio career, helped support the band as best we could. And now he joins the Welcome to Cooperville podcast, man. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. When did you start doing this? Somehow I missed this thing.
Yeah, so long story short, I was let go from radio back in February after 20 years and needed some sort of way to speak my mind, I guess, in more of a free form. You know, in 20 years in radio, I've crossed paths with a lot of interesting characters, and I figured what a better way to be able to actually have conversation with them. You know how radio interviews go. It's 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out, do a song, and thanks for coming. This is, it gets to be a little more in depth. So, you're episode number 23, so thank you.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, when I want to kind of take you back. Actually, first I want to talk about this. The Cleveland Browns. I'm going to tug at your heartstrings right now. Probably the most talked about football team franchise in the last year. Through the Super Bowl hype, through everything that went on in the off season, the draft, and now it's the buzz, man. You can feel the buzz now that training camp's underway. I know you posted about it the other day, and I'm like, we got to talk a little bit of how you're feeling about the season.
I mean, I just I don't want to jinx it too much. There's the typical Browns fan is to be a little overzealous and be like, we're going to the Super Bowl. And I mean, do I think they could do it? Absolutely. But I'm really just kind of like, I'm ready for a fun season and to know that they could win every game that I watch. And that's just like, we haven't felt that in a long time. I mean, last year was cool. And like, we started to kind of catch that fever a little bit, but this year you can just see it, all the bandwagon fans are coming out now. So, but I've always been a Browns fan, and, even when they suck, I'm going to watch them. But now it's like they could win. So it's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's it's a really cool story, and I think being from Wisconsin and born and raised, and obviously Packers are in our blood. Unless you can't stand the hype, then you'd find then you're a Vikings fan or a Bears fan just because you're like, well, whoever hates the Packers the most. But the Browns and the Packers, it's strange. They've kind of gone through a weird, I don't want to say a changing of the guard or anything along those lines, but just Green Bay's been so good for so long, and we've had it so, we lose the game, we're like, the world ends, but then we're like, wait a minute, we're gonna probably win the division, and we
bounce back. It'll be fine.
We're gonna be fine. You go through the Aaron Rodgers injury of a couple of years ago, and the tumultuous 2018 season, fired our head coach, but then the storylines were there for Cleveland. The season that was spectacular, unexpected, especially coming off the previous several seasons. Baker Mayfield. And his some people hate on Baker Mayfield. I love that in football, man. That guy's got attitude for days.
We needed a little bit of that. I mean, I feel like they've been a little passive, and like they needed that guy that's just like a real strong personality. And whether you love him or hate him, it's a strong personality. And I think that speaks volumes, and that gets the hype going and gets the fans going for sure.
And then you go out and get OBJ.
Yeah, I know.
Why not? Go get OBJ.
Hopefully they can both keep their mouths shut long enough to get some stuff done.
No, dude, this is going to be must-see television. I mean, even if you're not a Browns fan, you're going to watch because
absolutely
there's going to be entertainment. This way, they'll add pyrotechnics to the to the end zone dances. Man, we're looking forward to it. But
what's funny is when the in the 90s when we lost the team to Baltimore. the Packers actually became my team, because I was like, I'm not going to root for the Steelers because they're like the next closest team. I'm not really a Buffalo fan, So like Detroit, I was like, we have so many rivalries with Detroit in other sports, and it was just like, let's go with the Packers. They're kind of a similar like hardworking team, like for the people, and so I became a Packers fan until the Browns came back.
Well, we're glad we could fill the void in your life when they took a couple of years off. But born and raised in Ohio, so obviously that's where the allegiances come from. Tell me about growing up in Akron. What was life like for you as a youngster?
Akron was cool simply because I saw like all the phases of it. When I was growing up, it was just starting to, Akron was really known for a lot of immigrants, and very blue collar, especially with like the rubber industries and the steel stuff in Cleveland. A lot of people found their lives there and set their roots there early. So, like my grandpa's from Serbia, and, he came over and worked for Ohio Edison all these years. And there's so many people like that. And then as they started to get older, it started to change. And, some low income housing neighborhoods the crime started to get bad. And then as I was, going into college, I saw that start to gentrify back again as like a next generation was coming up. And that's kind of when I was playing music, and I saw like new little cool trendy spots popping up and new venues, and it was an exciting time. So I kind of saw like the three phases of Akron. But it's Akron people, and I'm sure people say this about their hometown everywhere, but I feel like Akron people, if you meet someone from Akron, Ohio, somewhere else, it's like a loyal thing. Like, oh, no way. Like you feel like you instantly bond with that person. And there's been a lot of successful people out of Akron. So I'm proud to kind of say that I'm from there always.
Was it the music scene, in Akron? Where did, when you were growing up, where did music first find its way into your life and into a point where, now at this juncture, you look back and say, I guess that's where this, roller coaster of a career in music actually started.
Yeah, it's, and it was a roller coaster in a way because, my mom always had a piano in the house, and, it was just like a small, like, I think it might've been a Steinway, just like an upright, nothing crazy fancy, but every Saturday morning, I remember this distinctly, she would clean the whole house, and then she would sit down and play piano for like 2 hours. That was like that's how she like unwinded from cleaning the house. And she did that ever since I can remember. And, there's videos of me and my little sister just like tinkering around on the piano. And I think I started to just kind of develop an ear for that. And I would write fake songs on there, and I couldn't actually play it. And by the time I got old enough to play, it like wasn't cool to take piano. It's like my friends like, oh no, you're going to take piano. It's like, so I got really into sports, and I didn't really do much with music, but I always just kind of loved it. And then when I was about 11 years old, I think I was 11, I saw this like documentary or something on Eric Clapton, and he was playing this black and white Strat, and I was like, that's so awesome, I want to do that. And I went over to my buddy Josh Pettit's house, God bless him. He had one, and he's like, dude, you got to check this out. And I went into his room, and he just was like blasting this electric guitar like as loud as possible. And that's like when I was just like, I got to get one of those. And I think that night I came back and I asked my mom, I was like, can I please have an electric guitar? And I got an electric guitar for Christmas when I was 11. And it was a black and white Strat. I think it was a Squire. And, I just started jamming with buddies, and, started a band with a friend at school. Dan Black, God rest his soul too. I don't know why all my friends are passing away, but him and I started a band and was in a band all through high school. And like him and I just kind of learned how to write songs together and play, and I was riffing off each other. And that was some of the most fun times of my life. Just like not even thinking about a career or anything, just really doing it for fun, which I still do. But then I went to college. I was like, I got to get serious. I got to go do something for real. I went to college I went to Kent State for architecture, and, you know, I'm going to school there, and I felt like I started to miss just playing gigs and just playing music. And I started to really think about like, maybe I could do this for real. And, you know, that's when, you know, Red Sun Rising basically kind of started when I met Ryan, and we started the band, and just kind of was like a whirlwind, man. I can't even, it's crazy. And then that's when I was like, I'm wasting money here at Kent going to school. I can't stop thinking about this, and I can't stop thinking about like booking shows, and like I got real addicted to the business side of the music industry too, just like, you know, booking like little tours for ourselves and stuff. It got me so stoked. So that's kind of how that kind of brings me to here, I guess. And I just kept going.
Now, you mentioned Clapton, obviously watching that documentary. So there's some influence there, as he was the, you know, the conduit between you and the Strat. You know, anybody else, you know, when you think back to what, you know, maybe they first tried to play or emulate, you know, was there, you know, a handful of artists, or, you know, even vocally, you know, because I think, you know, you have a unique range.
Thank you.
You kind of, you know, you have, not that you have to find somebody who's in that same range, but it's much easier to, you know, emulate somebody in your range than it is, you know, somebody who's in a different, you know, vocal styling as you. But what influences that you kind of said, yeah, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that kind of made you into the artist that you are?
Yeah, I think that was ever changing. You know, when I was a kid, it was a lot of classic rock in our house, but you know, I loved the pop side of things. Like I loved the Beatles. I loved and the Beach Boys. I loved like those quick, like super catchy pop rock songs. And you know, my mom was like really into Aerosmith, so I like loved Aerosmith when I was a kid, and huge, big, airy ballads and big vocals. And then I kind of, when I was in high school with my buddy in the band, we kind of discovered grunge like around that time. So like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and STP, and I started like getting really into that stuff. So it just kind of changed with me, but I always had that sense of like a great song is a great song, and I always focused on the melody and the hook. And so I listened to some obscure stuff as well, but that always drew me in. And if you listen to anything that I've written now, you can really hear that I focus mostly on the melody. And even if I'm saying a really brutally honest, dark lyric, you know, the melody I try to make as beautiful as possible.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, you know, songwriting and lyrics, because I think, you know, in radio in 20 years there was a lot of evolution, especially in the rock genre. A lot of changes in the sound, a lot of weird times, and a lot of you know. And I think several years ago it kind of got back into like really good songwriting. You know, bands that wrote their own stuff and even could change song for song. I mean, you could have a 10 song album, and yes, you could tell the stylings were still the same, but there was like a difference in it. You know, with Red Sun, you know, there's always meaning to it. You know, there's always like a feel, there's a vibe, there's something, I think, from multiple perspectives of the listener or the fan, you can go and look at it from a breakup point of view or an inspirational point of view. You know, when you sit down and write, you know, in your element, you know, where do you draw from? Where does the, you know, you talked about melody, but where does that, you know, that power come from when you put in, you know, pen to paper?
I think a lot of it is just like actual life experiences and describing how I feel or how someone else felt from their perspective, and trying to see something through their eyes. And sometimes that helps you gain perspective on the world in general, and allows you not to be so selfish. If you can kind of literally picture yourself in someone else's shoes and how they're feeling in that moment, and try to imagine it, kind of like an actor would, you know, portray that person and really try to be that person, how that person would react. Same thing, you know, you try to like feel those feelings and get it out. I think that, and interactions with people, like how I've affected other people and how they've reacted to me doing something. And you can metaphorically put those into lyrics where it can be transcendent into other emotions or other feelings and connect with somebody else in a different way.
Right.
It's like, I love that about art in general. Like, the most beautiful thing other than art itself is, in my opinion, the interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. Because when you put it out there and then someone comes back, it's like, oh, emotionless means this to me. It's like, well, that's not what it meant to me when I wrote it, but that is amazing what you just said. And that's what's cool about it.
Where does your, when you write, can you write in different, spaces and different areas, whether it's on a bus, whether it's on a, plane, whether it's, sitting down in your home, do you have a spot that you go to, or have you developed now a place you can be like, ooh, this, and especially now with technology, and we'll touch on that, where you can just, jot down something that hits your head and then use it later. Where's your perfect spot to write, or can you write anywhere?
I kind of can write anywhere, and I think that's because I never really had a space. Mm-hmm. Like even growing up, I was like always at a buddy's house, or like sitting on a, in the park with a pen and paper, or like my acoustic guitar, and which is funny because I never had a case, and I had this like I tied a string on the top of my headstock of my guitar. Mm-hmm. in the body, and I would like strap it on my back and ride my bike to this park and like sit there and wait for my buddies to get there, because I played sports too. So like we were playing like backyard football, but I'd get there early and like jam on my acoustic, and then we'd create like really dumb songs and I'll laugh and drink beer in high school like a bunch of idiots. But, we did all the normal stuff too. But yeah, I think I developed, just when it strikes me, it just strikes me and I go. And I kind of made this rule within myself to never force it. So if something strikes me, I'm like, oh, I have this idea. I get it down. And if I can't finish it in that moment, then I'll just come back when I'm ready. And sometimes I'll come back a year later. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that little thing. And now I know how to finish it. Mm-hmm. So I never force anything, which I think I always tell people, if they're like, you have any advice for songwriting or whatever, I was like, just don't force it, because people can smell that. They know when it's forced. They know when you finished it because you thought it was good or you thought it was catchy. Just like let it actually happen, and it'll happen. Yeah,
or you had to get it done because you needed a 10th song for an album. Like, oh, we got to write something. We got to put something out. I don't know what it is, but it's
that actually has happened. Though. Yeah, Rose was like that, and the other side was like that. Believe it or not.
Wow, and
the other side was almost not on that record.
That's amazing. I wanted to bring that song up because that was, when Polyester Zeal, and I want to get into the magic of that record. Other Side came out and it hit radio, and we used to get a ton of songs delivered, and the big bands that come through, and it's like, well, here goes a song from not charting into number 2 in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I didn't have to listen to it because I know I have to play it. But Other Side came out, and I was like, there was something special about that song, and amazing to hear that it almost didn't make the record. And it had so much texture to it, and then the music video. I mean, you're just dirty, like throughout the whole thing. Just a literal interpretation of crawling through mud. And then the record came out, and it's very rare, that I would listen to a full album from start to beginning, unless I'm a huge fan of a certain artist. But that one, Polyester Zeal, came out, and first song to last song, I was like, that could be a single. That could be a single. Still Upset Push wasn't a single. I don't know if we can, re-release that, because that was a fave. But I mean, that collectively as a record was just one of the ones, and I have a handful. Like, I think, Offspring Smash was one of those albums where every song could have been.
Oh, for sure. I had that record.
And I think they all were. I think they released.
Yeah, I think they actually did it.
Yeah, I think they're like, nope, just how many are at radio right now? 9. We're gonna do 10. It's fine.
All right, it's cool.
But it was such a solid album, to come out, and
thank you.
Really cool to add a band into a rotation of a lot of stuff that, even in my programming, mind, sounded a lot alike. And then all of a sudden you have this band that has, emotion to it, and it's got texture, and it's got, it's rough and dirty, yet it's clean and harmonic. It is, but to hear that song almost didn't make it, that's cool anecdotal stuff to store in my brain, and for all my fans.
Yeah. and same thing with the video. We were like, there's this big miscommunication with the label and the guy doing the video, which is Brad Gulliwan. He's done a lot of our videos at this point, and he's actually shooting a documentary. So he's been following us for 8 years now. Oh. So he did it, and he was like, I don't know where we're supposed to go, where this location is. So like we made some calls in Akron, and we found this one space, like it was an abandoned like storefront building with a warehouse garage thing. And we're like, I guess we can shoot it in here. It was literally like I guess we can do it here. And Brad's like, well, we need a concept. And he's like, why don't you just get like really dirty and like just cover yourself in mud and like, you know, we'll just make some like creepy, cool shots and I'll like kind of distort it. And it was like so thrown together, and because it was so like instinctual, just thinking about the song and like just being there and be like, it actually worked because of the simplicity of it. It was just like, it just let the song be the song. Yeah. And it was perfect.
You guys tend to have a lot of fun with your videos too, and that's, you know, everything from a very serious note to some lighthearted stuff like Amnesia, where you get to have some fun with it. Is that a fun part of what you guys get to do? Is, you know, when you have a song out and really there's not, you know, emotionless in all the videos that you guys have done. There's never like it's just kind of, okay, we can do this. Is that fun? Do you guys enjoy the video process of it?
I think. You know, I've always been very involved in like helping to create the visuals and the concepts. And that's exciting because that's just another way to be creative, and music allows me to do that, which is cool. So yeah, I think it starts like, oh man, we start spitballing and we slowly, at first it's kind of a train wreck. Everyone has their ideas and they just throw them in the hat, and like, they're usually all over the place. So we have to kind of focus it. It's like, okay, well, that's cool. And we kind of, it's usually over the course of like a month or so, and it just slowly kind of like chips down into like, okay, that's the idea. And, but yeah, we do have a lot of fun with it. And, you know, we always say we take our art really seriously, but as you can see from, you know, Amnesia, or if you meet us in person, like after a show or something, we're rarely serious. So it's like, we take our art seriously, but definitely not ourselves. And you can see that in some of our work.
Yeah, we have long stories, and my wife and I, who says hi, by the way, who misses your face. And
how are you?
She's doing well. The bird whistle story from Rockfest a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Was that Ricky? I think
Rick and his bird whistle.
Rick and the bird. We went to a store, it was a CBD store, and it was like some oils and kind of a hippie store, and they had like just giant bird whistles, like, you know, made out of, you know, some sort of plaster of Paris. And I was like, we need to find one of these for Rick and just send it to him.
Oh my God. And the day he came with that, we heard it like nonstop. Like I think we were touring in a van at the time, and like I remember like hearing it in the middle of the night sometimes, and he'd like giggle to himself and be like, what is this guy doing, man? He's like,
just hitting the bird whistle real quick. It's gonna be fun.
Hitting the bird whistle, enjoying life.
That's fun though. No, you guys, you know, have had, you know, success, you know, radio success and the video success too. And it's weird that in an era where, you know, when I grew up, obviously the only outlet for music videos was MTV. They stopped doing that. That's no longer a thing that's in the realm of possibility. But, you know, with YouTube and all these other avenues and sharing on social media, that fans can have a chance to, you know, see what, you know, spitballed ideas actually came into fruition after a month with Red Sun Rising. I mean, you guys are getting more views than the MTV days ever could have imagined, just because of how fast things can spread on social media.
Yeah, it's wild. And I remember like getting off the bus when I was a kid and running home to try to catch like one of the bands you liked on like TRL.
Yeah. We got to go. Like, Carson Daly's going to be on.
Now you just like, everyone's there's no urgency anymore. It's like, oh, I'll look it up later. I'll see it later.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I can put together my own playlist and watch all my favorite videos when I, you know, fall down the rabbit hole of YouTube.
Oh yeah. I can do that for hours.
So, you know, coming off the, you know, the success of the first record, talking about putting Thread together, because you could definitely, some artists, you can tell that there was not that there wasn't maturity from album 1 to album 2, but Thread just felt like it had the same core to it, but it just felt like, wow, these guys have like stepped up.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you picked that out, and it was definitely the intention to make a different type of record, and we didn't know what that was actually going to sound like, but we knew that we wanted to challenge ourselves musically, and I think that's kind of what Thread is, like take all these influences and create a real texture in the music. And stemming back to reference the Beatles and the Beach Boys again, if you listen to a Beatles or a Beach Boys song, most of them, you hear this simple pop song, you hear the melody, you hear the harmonies and the lyrics. But a lot of times if you break them down and you realize the harmonies that they're choosing and the chord voicings in the guitar and the piano and how they're playing off each other and the crazy bass lines in some of those, you realize like how technical musically those were.
Right.
But at the surface, it's like, oh, that's just like a very nice, digestible pop song.
It's fun. I'll get around. Yeah.
So we kind of tried to capture that a little bit in the Thread record, and that's kind of where the term Thread even came from, and it kind of became like our pseudo genre in a way.
Yeah, pseudo. It's your hashtag, man.
Yeah, our hashtag, man. That's life. Hashtag is life.
Is that where all the fun shirts came out? Because I'm trying to think of Polyester Zeal, touring on Polyester Zeal, and then touring on Thread. It seems like your fashion sense, the shirts on stage had developed some Beach Boys vibe to them.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, I think I found my shirt for life. Like, if I could just live in a Hawaiian shirt for the rest of my life, I'm cool with it, because it's just so comfortable. People are like, why do you always wear the Hawaiian shirts? And it originally came from playing the festivals in Florida, and they were so hot. I was like, I'm just wearing this. I'm just gonna wear this. And
my thing.
Like, oh, that's a sweet shirt, man. I'm like, all right, I guess this is what I'm wearing now forever.
This is my look.
This is
Mike's look. Hey, you guys
kind of like Liam Gallagher in the raincoat. He's just like, I'll always have a Hawaiian shirt on.
Like, dude, it's not raining. But you guys played some hot shows up here in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
And you're like, wait a minute, we're in Wisconsin. Like, it's not supposed to get this hot up here.
That blew my mind up there. It's like, I was like dangerously hot. I think it was Rock USA.
Yeah.
Man, what a fun show. But it was so hot, like I was sweating into my in-ears. And like I couldn't hear, because it would like, I'd wipe them out, and then I would start playing again, and it would just fill up with sweat, and it would just be like, that's what it would sound like. And so I was just like popping my ears out. It was so hot.
Are we singing underwater? It kind of feels like it. Feels like I got water in there.
That's what it felt like, for sure.
But I think you guys on the festival circuit is, especially now that some festivals, and I'll point out, Rock Fest, obviously in our backyard here in Rock USA, they've really done a great job of getting, fans in early, and getting a chance for. So you guys, I've been standing on side stage, during early performances, and when they block things off and people are all in the back, and I know bands, especially like you guys, who are so, you can just tell that the feeding that you take from the audience, but it seems like now you getting a chance to really be in front of this energetic crowd who's like right there in your face. And you mentioned it on one of your posts about, I'm not sure who that guy was on stage acting all crazy, because I'm a pretty chill dude, but you can feel that energy now with that crowd like right there in your face.
And when people talk about like, do you get sick of playing the same songs over and over again? It's like, yeah, but when the whole crowd sings it back to you, it's like doing it for the first time. It's like that energy, you can't replace that. So whoever, whatever fan is listening right now, like the louder you sing, you're just going to get a better show.
Right.
Like, the more energy you give us, the more energy we're going to get back, because that's just how it works.
Very cool. Now, tour or life on the road, can be crazy. And you mentioned even in your high school and more in your college days, really getting into that business side of things and starting to book little tours when you were even in college and stuff. How much how much of a toll does the road take on you guys? I know you seem to like be one of the bands that kind of has it kind of figured out. Like, it's not too much that it's gonna hurt somebody, but it's it's enough that everybody's getting a good dose of Red Sun Rising.
Well, that Polyester Zeal, those first 2 years were brutal. I mean, we were out at one point for like almost 8 months straight. Oof. We did like the whole U.S. on a a support tour, and then we did the festival circuit right into a West Coast tour, right into Europe. Then we came back, did festivals here, and then went back into the European festivals. And it was like the most, like, people were like, relationships and their family life were getting like really kind of destroyed, right? Because it's like there's only so much you can do. There's only so much communication through a phone that you can do to maintain that. And that was brutal. And all we could do is just like have each other there and be like, let's just try to have the best time we can, because, you know, who knows where this is going. This could be over tomorrow.
It's a great 8 months of our life. All right, now food service industry. How does that sound?
Yeah, you never know.
I think you could do the drive-through thing, right? You'd get you on a microphone there. You'd sing to people, sing people's orders.
Sing all the orders.
How would you like a fries with that? You know, I
saw Kiss was one of the first bands I ever saw like live, like a big concert, and I remember him singing like everything, even between. He'd be like, "What's up, Detroit?" It's like in between. Like normally somebody would just talk, but he sang everything. The guy didn't stop singing.
Oh, you got to keep those vocal cords warm, man. You can't be settling down in your talking voice, man.
He did call us Detroit in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, though, which was weird.
They didn't switch out the script.
Yeah, he didn't. Someone missed the teleprompter.
It was on the curtain in the back. They're like, "Oh, I guess we're doing 2 shows in Detroit tonight." It was a long bus ride around the block, man.
Right.
Damn it, Gene! Stop driving crazy. No, it's been a wild. It sounds like a wild ride for you guys. When you look back at this point, at where you're at, what's the one thing that you're like, that's kind of next? Do you have a next thing, or is it, or a place you want, or like a place you want? Like, man, we really want to tour this location.
Yeah, I mean, there's touring locations. We were lucky that we got to do 2 really great European tours with Alter Bridge and Skillet, and they have a lot of popularity in some really not weird, but countries that you would normally go touring, like a lot of the Eastern European countries. So we got to see a lot of that, which, if I never get to go back, which, we will, but I got to see that, and that was really a cool experience. And we, the one year we did, I think it was 100, and Pat, the drummer, loves documenting these things, so he would know the exact if you ever wanted to ask him. But I think it was like 182 shows in like 19 countries or something like that. It was unbelievable. And that was like 2 years ago. That was the touring schedule, and that was super brutal. But it was so much fun. It was like the most fun I would never want to do again. If that makes sense. That was
a blast. Well, if checked off the bucket list, then you're good. You're like,
as far as like going forward, I think just, keep pushing forward as a musician, and whether it's, I know I've been writing a lot, and I think there's some songs that are coming up that I'm like, is this really a Red Sun Rising song, or do I want to release this through a different avenue? And I'm not saying to get rid of Red Sun Rising or go solo or something, but maybe there's some other projects in the works that I might want to do, because I can't wait 2 years between and only release 11 songs every 2 years. I just can't do that. I write too much. So I might be doing some extra curricular stuff. I don't know.
So do you take breaks? I mean, I know you're on a little bit of a, you have a couple days off here, and thank you on your off days.
When I'm home, I try to enjoy it. Especially, I live in Chicago, so the summer makes it worth it.
We heard the sirens. We know where you are.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it worth it living here. Yeah. The lake is beautiful, and I got a buddy, he has a boat out there, so he'll take me out, and we'll hang out. And I got a bike here. It's a super bike friendly town, so I try to really get out and enjoy being outside as much as possible. But in the winter, I'm pretty much hunkered down in here, and I'm just writing music. That's pretty much what's going on.
Oh, I know how that goes, man, because I living in Wisconsin, that's basically our gig, is we are here in wintertime for 6 months, and then we get 3 weeks of summer, and then it's fall. Or
you got to get out there.
You really got to get out and enjoy it. Otherwise, you're just shoveling constantly.
Right.
You mentioned doing a lot of festivals, overseas. You've done the circuits around here. Are those fun avenues for you guys? Because you do get a chance to kind of, not only hang out with bands that you've had a chance to tour with or you played shows with, but to see and meet other bands that, maybe you haven't had a chance to cross paths with. So those are fun for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, we're just like anybody else, even though we play music, we're still huge music fans. Yeah. So like when we finally get to play, like when we got to share a stage with a Perfect Circle and Tool and the biggest bummer was one of my biggest influences, Chris Cornell, if you've never noticed. We were supposed to play with them. I'm like, I'm finally going to get to play with Soundgarden. Like, this is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And it was that weekend that, he left us, and we went to, and I think the band Live took over for their spot at Rocklahoma, which I love Live too. But I'm like, man, I was this close to play, like sharing a stage with Soundgarden, and that would have been a dream come true. But yeah, like anyone else, we're just fans. And the coolest part about touring so much and doing all these festivals is the backstage environment becomes better. You start to get to know these other bands, and like, hey, there's Jimmy from, the Plums, whatever. Right. It's like you start to get to know these people, and right. you have meals with them, and you start developing relationships, and you see like, oh, we'll see you in a couple weeks at this festival, and that just makes it touring more fun, and it makes you not miss home as much. Right.
You mentioned the Chris Cornell thing. The Chester Bennington anniversary was recently too, and you guys obviously had been established in that time frame. Was there a change in the, I'll call it the family of rock and roll at all, as far as support goes? I mean, I know there's now seemingly more via social media, a lot of outspoken advocates for mental health, and it doesn't always look this way. Obviously, you can see a guy who's extremely happy one day, and then obviously is dealing with a lot of stuff. Is there support when you guys are out? Do you feel that more these days?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's more people. We did a tour that raised money for mental health for our song "Stealing Life," and if you haven't seen the video, check that out. That's kind of what we're talking about, and that was right after those two passed. And the thing with those two in particular is like, there's artists that are messed up on drugs or have had some problems, but those two just seemed so like such stand-up guys and so normal. And when that happened, I think it shook a lot more people than someone that has openly had a lot of issues. And so, it was definitely tough for me. It was tough for the band members. That was kind of one of those, celebrity deaths that I think actually affected us. But yeah, you see it a lot. And after we released that song and that video, especially on that tour, we had a lot of fans, expressing their concern for us about, being out and just making sure we were okay for releasing a song like that. Or it's like, are any of you feeling that way? And sharing their personal stories. And but I think that was the point, was just to open the dialogue about it, and we accomplished that, at least in our inner circle, and hopefully it can move outward from there.
And I noticed that you guys, you in particular, are very open in conversation with your fans via social media. They just don't post, and obviously it's tough to get to every single person that replies on something. But you don't just post something and then let it kind of live out there. If someone has a comment, you want on there. How is social media, you think, kind of changed the relationship between artists and fans? Because obviously before we used to be the music, and then you had live shows and a video. Yeah. Now there can be more almost open dialogue and interpretations of things that can happen on social media. How has that affected how you guys kind of roam that area?
I think it needs to be, that's just the world we live in. I think there was when social media first started to happen. I remember the MySpace days when I was in high school. Yep. Promoting your band and stuff, and that was all new, and it was just like, we loved artists, like Tool, for example, where they were so mysterious and so behind the curtain, and you can't really be that anymore. That era is kind of like, there's creative ways of doing it. There's people that wear masks and blah, blah, blah. But, even like Corey Taylor, eventually he's got to just be a real person.
Right.
And people need to connect with that real person. And he's done a great job at that. And, but that's the truth. It's like, if you really want to make a real connection with your fans, it's not just through your music anymore. They, and the thing I notice is, like, sometimes I'll post a picture on stage, just playing on stage, whatever. I'm like, oh, we got these shows coming up. But it's the pictures of me just like riding my bike at home or drinking a beer that get the most action. And because people are more interested in what else are you doing?
Right.
We know you do that. We see that. And that's what social media is. It's like, it's wild, and you have to just embrace it. So other than writing music in the winter and sitting around, I'm usually responding to people. And my wife hates it. What are you doing?
Stop talking to those people.
You're hanging out with me.
I'm over here. Jeez. Sorry, honey. I mean that. No, it's, it has opened up so many, I think, in a lot, as much negativity as I think social media gets, as much, and there's a lot of crap that sticks to the wall out there and gets shared, and probably leads to the detriment of some organizations or human beings. But I think it has given us this tool of communication that didn't exist. When it didn't exist, and people will talk about, well, we used to pick up the actual phone, or we used to go and visit people.
Yeah.
My mom lives out in California. My dad lives on the other side of the state. So these are the tools that kind of keep us even as a family. And for bands that are on the road and they want to, see each other or whatever, talk to their family at home, it's definitely opened up some ways for us to still be connected even though we're apart, which is
absolutely, yeah.
So where does the rest of the year take you guys? I got 2019. I want to say summer's wrapping up here in Wisconsin. So
so you're saying, what are we doing for the rest of the year?
What's the rest of the year for the band got going on?
Yes, the rest of the year we got just a couple more shows, honestly. We're doing one show in September. We're doing Sturgis. That'll be fun. We're doing a show with Incubus this weekend, which another big influence. So I'm stoked about that. Got a couple shows at the end of the month, and then one show in September. It's us and Highly Suspect in the home state of Ohio, which will be a blast. And then I think, we might do in the fall, we might do some, I really want to do an acoustic run. I don't care if it's like just 10 cities. I just want to do like a real chill vibe, just sing and not have to worry about everything else. Just like sing some songs. I want to do that. And so I might try doing that. And a couple of the guys from the band will probably join me. So it'll most likely just be basically us. But
it sounds good on an acoustic tour. Bird whistle.
Bird whistle, absolutely.
Bird whistle
player.
Get a professional though. Let's.
Yeah, I'll get a professional. It can't be Rick. He's an amateur.
You get a little too excited, and you'd be like, "No, dude, no, wrong key. That's not right.
Yeah,
that's not where we're going." But talking about Incubus, we saw them 2 years ago, and it was at a festival, and probably the most tranquil show I've ever been to. It was lightly raining. And you got Incubus doing their thing. Like, my wife and I are standing next to each other. Like, this feels like we are literally on a different planet.
Yeah.
You know how Brandon just kind of owns the stage in his own way, and if the rain's falling, and we're like, the world outside of that, those two chairs did not exist.
Yeah, they're already a vibey band anyway, and then to add those elements is incredible.
I mean, it did smell like pot too, but it wasn't us. Yeah. That happens at Incubus shows. It happens at every show. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
that's crazy. One thing I do want to, I've always wanted to inquire about is you guys did the cover of Uninvited by Alanis Morissette.
Yep.
Which is incredible. I mean,
thank you.
Bands cover a lot of songs, and some are decent, but that one was just like, your vocal range is just so like kicks that song's ass. It's not even. I saw you do it live. I've heard the song on the radio. I've seen the video. Tell me about that particular song, because I think when you put the video out, thank you for making it PG 14 rated.
Yeah.
That worked out well. But it completely, again, I think we talked about this earlier, it really gives you this different interpretation of a song and how maybe you viewed it and how when she wrote it, she viewed it. Just tell me about, that particular cover song and putting it together and playing it.
I mean, that song, I've always loved Alanis Morissette, only, especially as a vocalist, as a lyricist, as a songwriter. And I've always wanted to cover one of her songs. And that one just had this darkness to it that I was just drawn to. And it was really interesting because if you listen to the recording, her version, it's all orchestration. Mm-hmm. So we had to figure out how to do that as a rock band with, drums, bass, and guitar and a vocal, not with strings. So that was a challenge in itself. And then vocally, it was, to do that female registered part was very challenging for me, which I was up for, and I was excited to do it. And it did push me. And we recorded that with Sylvia Massey. She did like the early Tool records, and she really pushed me vocally in there. And I remember being behind the glass, like in the vocal booth, and she's like dancing, like waving her arms and like trying to pull it out of me. Like she's very eccentric like that, but it like so works. Like she just wanted me to submerge in it. And the video was Brad Gullowin, the guy that's been documenting us. It's actually a short film that he created. And the short film's called Eddie. And I saw it and I was like, this would be amazing with this song. Can we make an edit that it's like so perfect for it? It's like unbelievable. So we sat down and made edits and cuts to kind of make it fit the song right. And to hear people's interpretation of that is cool too. Some people got a creepy vibe from it, but if I see it as just the old man just really wanted to see that girl happy. He wanted to make someone happy. He was so alone. He just wanted to make someone happy, and he did. And that's how I view it. Yeah,
powerful stuff. Like all the stuff that you guys put out. It's powerful. It's energetic. It really has a message, and I think that's so important in music nowadays, especially when there's a lot of surface out there, to find things that draw you in and that you can put into your own life context. Yeah, the beer drinking songs are fun because those are times that
Yeah, those happen too.
That happens, and those are the ones that you look forward to. But I think those songs you get to those songs by experiencing the ones in the middle, the ones that talk about the hard stuff and the difficult things to talk about and the emotional things. But you guys have always done an amazing job of just pulling people and pulling, minds and hearts and souls into your music. It's an incredible ride that I am glad I got to be a part of for a moment in time. And it's fun. It's fun to watch you guys and watch you freak out on stage is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I like watching me freak out on stage too. I don't know what I'm looking like doing that. I get there's the video. That's what I look like. All right.
That's what I look. That's a good looking shirt though. Damn.
Yeah. that shirt was spot on, man.
All right, Mike. Hey, brother, really appreciate the time and the conversation and the stories. Like I said, this is one of the cool things about technology and the way that people listen to things is the stories that are behind it. And I'm glad I got to hear yours, and hopefully we can do it again sometime, maybe face to face.
Absolutely. That was fun, man.
Awesome, brother.